सदा सर्वगतोऽप्यात्मा न सर्वत्रावभासते बुद्धावेवावभासेत स्वच्छेषु प्रतिबिम्बवत् सदा सर्वगतोऽप्यात्मा न सर्वत्रावभासते बुद्धावेवावभासेत स्वच्छेषु प्रतिबिम्बवत्. The Atman, the self, does not manifest everywhere, though it is all pervading. Sada sarvagatopyatma na sarvatra avabhasate. It manifests only in the Buddha, Buddhau, which is the intellect, just like reflection in an immaculate surface. A very beautiful analogy. He compares the Atman to be the sun. This is a very often done in the Shastras. So the attributes or the aspects of comparison here, he says the Atman is all pervading. Atman, or God in layman's term, is everywhere. It's just that we don't have the capacity to perceive. It is not that it is any less or any more, but we believe Atman appears to be in concentrations. In places of divinity, you believe Atman is there, and Atman is not there in certain places. In certain people, you don't identify Atman. Example, you identify Atman in a saintly person, in a noble person, in a sattvic person. You may say you perceive divinity in him, but in a person who is extremely crude, a person who is tamasic, a person who is imperfect, you don't see the Atman in him. But the truth is, the Atman is very much there in a sinner as much as in a saint, in equal proportion. You get what I'm saying? The Atman is all pervading. The Atman is there even in a garbage trash. Atman is there. Atman is there in the space occupied by the dead body. Atman is there. Atman is everywhere. God is everywhere. But in order to identify with God, in order to recognize God, we're all told to go within. Even though God is everywhere, the search is always within. It's never outside. If it is only within and you're told to go within, understandable. But it's everywhere. Why are we told to only go within and find out? It's a question you can think about it. If it's everywhere, I can very well go and search for it everywhere. No? Why are we only directed inwards? I don't know whether you have thought of it, but if you haven't, think of it. It's something to ponder over. But just like an example, the government of a country pervades everywhere. The laws of that country pervades within its territorial land, even the territorial waters. So if you and I break the law of that government, of that country, you're punishable because the law pervades there. But yet, if you want to contact the government, you have to go to the headquarters, isn't it? For example, you want to contact uh, the ministry, you want to contact the prime minister's department, or you want to go to the finance minister, who is the head of all the finance of the country. You can't say, oh yeah, the government spreads everywhere, so you can't go to the local pawn shop and say, I want to meet the finance minister. Say, what are you talking? What pan you want? He'll only say. He doesn't know anything else but that pan, or the BD, or the cigarette. So there's no existence of knowledge of that. But it's not that the government is not present there. It's very much there. But you want to contact, go to the headquarters. Similarly, you want to contact the Atman, we are always directed within. Now, secondly, he says, Atman only manifests. Even though it's everywhere, it doesn't manifest everywhere. Why it doesn't manifest everywhere? First of all, do you realize that it doesn't manifest everywhere? Oh, sir, I am scratching my head. This is news to me. How do you say it doesn't manifest everywhere? First, you got to justify that statement, then he says where it manifests. He says it doesn't manifest everywhere. How do you explain that statement? Atman is everywhere, is established it, and then he says it doesn't manifest everywhere. It's all pervading, it doesn't manifest. What do you mean by that? Now, how many of you are hearing that phrase for the first time? I'll not bother you. Okay. RPG, looks like you have heard this before. Huh?
Hari Om, Guruji.
Hari Om, sir.
Yeah, yes, I've heard it, read about it a little bit. So, from my perspective and from what I've studied, it reflects in the appropriate medium. So the intellect is that medium. It needs that source or outlet in order to shine through. It cannot shine through the gross elements like the body, the world. These are all gross. The intellect is that more subtle, I think you said it before, reflecting medium, or it needs that in order to shine through.
Yes, so the Atman doesn't manifest in all the inert matter, isn't it? Inert matter, which constitutes the physical body and all inert objects. Atman doesn't manifest. Now, can you tell me why it doesn't manifest in the inert matter? You're right. You're absolutely right. But can you give me a clear reason why it doesn't manifest?
That's a little tougher for me. Why it doesn't manifest in those things?
Would you suggest we go and ask Atman itself? Why are we scratching our head?
I think that might be a good path. Yes, because I'm not strong enough to answer that or learn it enough. That one's not as clear for me.
Right, no problem. In fact, if you think closely, the answer is there in the very concept which you already actually spelled it out, which the text also states. He says the Atman only manifests where there is a reflecting medium, which is the intellect. So the Atman manifests only in the, when he says the intellect, you must take it as a broad sense where in the subtle body. Atman manifests where there is subtle matter. Just to spell it out, Atman manifests where there is subtle body, subtle matter, which constitutes your mind and intellect. In generic sense, you can say Atman manifests where there is a thought. Thought is subtle matter. But why doesn't Atman manifest where in inert matter? It doesn't manifest in inert matter because there is no subtle matter. As simple as that. Because it needs a reflecting medium. Now, when you say manifests mean what? What is your understanding of the word manifest? See, these are terms we should not take it for granted. That's why I'm just spelling it out. So our understanding of Atman becomes clearer. That's about all. So Ushama, what is your understanding of the word manifest?
Express, Namaste Guruji. Is it expressed, is the way of expression?
Manifest is expression. No, how do you understand expression as?
Like it shows off. Somebody can feel it or somebody can sense it, kind of.
Something that you feel or sense. I'm just looking for that one word, which really captures the word. You're right in understanding, but I'm trying to look for that one word, which really connects with the word manifest.
Spreads around.
Spreads around. Okay. You're not wrong in your understanding. That's all I'm saying. But just that one word.
Reflect.
Reflect. Okay. Right. I think you're very soon you'll be exhausted for the words. I don't want to push you anymore. Pinkima?
Sorry. Okay. Because you've said it needs reflecting, something in which it can reflect. So can we say that like a mirror? Like I can only see myself in the mirror. I can see myself nowhere else. Without a reflecting medium, how would I see myself? But even that reflection is only an image of me. It's not, I don't see myself, but I only see my reflection. So the intellect is the subtle matter where it is reflected.
Yes.
That's
yes.
my understanding.
What you said, you have captured what we have just mentioned very well. But what we are asking is, the moment we say the word manifest, I just want to bring you back to that clarification we're seeing. Manifest means, what do you mean? When he says Atman doesn't manifest in inert matter, he only says it doesn't manifest everywhere. He doesn't say where it doesn't manifest. We have understood it doesn't manifest in inert matter. Now my question is, what does the word manifest mean?
To appear as something.
To appear, all right. You are still trying to describe the dictionary meaning. I'm trying to ask the philosophical significance. What is that word conveying philosophically is my inquiry. You're all going dictionary, you see. Therefore, I'm still probing. But not your thinking is not wrong. You're all right.
So can I say it expresses itself as through the intellect, because when we use our intellect, then we are not driven by the mind or impulse or emotion.
No. Don't take it. Don't take it. No. It does. See, that's why I said the intellect. I'll come to the reason why the text precisely uses the word intellect here. Why does the text use the word buddhi? But to begin with, you use the word intellect as broad, subtle body, subtle matter, which is mind, and intellect, which is thoughts at large. So you don't.
Okay.
So take that in general, and then I'll explain why the verse specifically used the word intellect. Okay, right now, Sudhakar garu, Cheppan sir.
Hari Om.
Hari Om sir.
In very simple terms, I think it is exist. Manifest means exist.
Atman is existing there, but it doesn't manifest there.
No, since you asked me to express in only one single word, that struck me that should be appropriate. That's what I felt.
Just because you say the one word doesn't mean it has to be the right word. No, you can use many words. But my argument is, clarification is, you said exist. It exists there. Manifest, it exists there, but it doesn't manifest there. it seems to be dead. Atman is dead, but it is very much there. You'll all understand the fact that I'm probing, the fact that why I'm being very particular. You'll understand when I clarify the whole thing. A few answers in the chat box. Manifests, takes a form. Experience like a mirror, can be seen. Ramana Garu, this is sort of close. What do you mean can be seen? Shiva is saying obvious. No, very obvious. Very medhavi. It's very obvious for you. Yes, sir. Huh? Or else we are baffling here to understand.
Pranam Swamiji.
Yes, sir. Namaskaram.
Yeah, namaskaram. So which can be felt like, see, I will let us say, where I can perceive, like where I can feel. It is even though it is everywhere available, I can only see the current in the bulb. Like proper medium should be there.
Okay.
So I can be felt is the word which I'm thinking.
All right. Okay. All right. I get what you're saying. You all are right. Okay. Not to stretch this further, the word enlivens, or sorry, manifests means there is no life. There is no expression of life. The moment anything manifests, there is expression of life. There is no life in inert matter, but there is life in a living being. Just because there is life in a living being, and just because there is no life in inert matter, doesn't mean the Atman is absent in inert matter and present in living being. Precisely the same argument can hold good if you say, when a person dies, they say Atman has left the body, the soul has left the body. Atman is all pervading, sarvatra. If it is everywhere, there is nowhere for it to move. Therefore, Atman, through the process of deduction, we will say Atman is very much there in the space occupied by the dead body. So how come a living being which had life, which perceived, felt and understood, there was perception, emotion, thought, suddenly became lifeless? You mean Atman has left? No, Atman has not left. Atman is very much there. What has left is subtle matter, because Atman only manifests where there is intellect and mind, which is subtle matter. So what has left the body is subtle matter. That's another argument you can give to conclude that what leaves when a body dies, when a person dies, is not Atman but subtle matter. The mind and intellect and the vasanas have left. Therefore, a person dies. Now, that is not the point of discussion here. Now, what we are trying to establish is manifests here means life. Now, for life, therefore, what are the ingredients that's needed for expression of life? From what I have explained, even with reference to death, can you give me an equation of life? Vasantama, I know you have been following very closely. What is the equation you can give me for life? What are the elements that is needed for an expression of life?
The mind, intellect, and vasanas, plus the gross panchabhutas. Panchabhutas are already there.
They're already there. So for expression of life, what are ingredients needed? What are the elements needed?
Matter plus subtle.
Matter plus?
Subtle. mind, intellect.
That both matter plus subtle is enough to give life, is it? Sir, mathematical equations, sir. You're all thinkers. You're all science background, mathematic background. What are all the what is the equation for life?
Vasanas.
Because if any one equation is absent, there will be no life.
Physical plus mind, intellect, vasanas, and Atma.
For life to be, there has to be an expression or manifestation of life. You need first the Atman, which is, we take it for granted, but we must mention it. Atman has to be there. There has to be the physical body, gross matter. There has to be the mind, the intellect, and the vasanas. So I'm just splitting it up, mentioning it in detail. Atman, the physical body, the mind, intellect, and the vasanas. So all these ingredients, when they are in unison, in union, there is expression of life. So in inert matter, what is it that is absent? Padminima, just want to ensure you have followed what I have been saying. In inert matter, there is no life. What is it that is absent in inert matter?
Physical body, mind, intellect, vasana.
Hello.
Yes, ma.
Yeah. In inert matter, what is absent is the mind, intellect, and vasanas. You have the physical matter. Atman is also there. But what is absent is mind, intellect, and vasana. Subtle matter.
Subtle matter is absent. Therefore, we say Atman manifests only where there is mind and intellect, or intellect. Are you all clear with this definition? Therefore, we always also, we conclude and say that when you want to declare body as nothing but inert matter, because it's nothing but Panchabhutas, we learned earlier, isn't it? When we went through the concept of Panchikarana, we said how the 5 elements constitute the gross body, so on and so forth. Okay. Now, he draws a parallel of the Atman to be the sun. It becomes easier. Like sunlight is everywhere, but sunlight doesn't reflect in an opaque surface. It only reflects where there's a reflecting medium. But that doesn't mean the sunlight is not present. In fact, there is light between your eyes and the source of light where you're seated. Do you realize that? There is light from between your eyes and the source of light. The source of light where you're seated is perhaps the tube or the bulb, because your room is well lit. But you don't see light in between, do you? Are you all following what I'm saying? There's light everywhere in the room. Like there's enough light in the room where I'm seated. But you don't see light per se. Okay. If I ask you, what is it that you're seeing? Don't give me the description of what this product is. What is it that you see? Rajima?
An object.
Okay. You please hold there. Shubhama, what do you see?
An object.
Okay. Both of you are dismissed. Ramji, what do you see?
It's a non-living thing.
Amma. So philosophy பேசுறீங்க. What is it you see, Ramji? Quickly, my hand is hurting.
Hari Om, Guruji. Hari
Hari
Om.
Om, sir.
Hari
Okay,
Om.
right. Yes. What is it you see, sir?
No, we see we see the light reflecting on an object, because of which we can see the object.
Correct. So what you see is light plus the object. It's not just the object. Now, what is it you see? You don't see anything. So what is the unseen here?
Light.
Unseen is the light. What is seen is the object plus light. What is unseen is the light, the pure light which is bathed around me. You see me is because the light that falls on me, that bounces back to you as the form. So what you are seeing is object plus light. So what you are seeing is reflections. You're not seeing pure light. You cannot see pure light. What you're seeing is object plus light. Like when I take away the object, you don't see the light which is there, which enables you to see the object. So Ramji, the equation of seen is object plus light. The unseen is the light.
Unseen is light.
So what is the equation? Seen minus unseen.
Object.
Huh?
Seen minus unseen.
What is seen? Objects plus light.
Yeah.
Unseen is the
Light.
light.
Yeah.
So the seen minus unseen is
Object.
the object. You don't experience the world. You don't have no experience of matter without the consciousness. You have taken it for granted. Just another dimension to explain what that perspective of sunlight or light, we have taken it for granted. Everything is bathed in the presence of the consciousness. Everything is bathed in the sunlight, but you only see where there is a reflecting medium. He puts it differently. I have brought it in a different way, but you need a reflecting medium to see the sun. Similarly, you need the mind and intellect for the Atman to manifest. And also you extend that the Atman takes the attributes of the reflecting medium. Can we say that, Ramji?
Yes.
So if the reflecting medium is dirty, the reflection appears dirty. If the reflecting medium is crystal clear, the reflection appears crystal clear. If the reflecting medium is blurred, the reflection appears blurred. So the reflection, so the Atman in a dull head appears dull and morose. The Atman in a mediocre appears mediocre. The Atman in a brilliant individual appears grand wisdom. Is brilliant, is majestic, is mind-boggling, is too smart. But you don't attribute the dullness, mediocrity, or excellence to the reflecting, to the Atman, but to the reflecting medium.
In fact, Guruji, can we say that it is also just like the moon? On a full moon day, it is a full reflection and you see the bright, brilliant moon.
Yes.
And on other days, as it decreases, you see a much duller and lighter moon.
Absolutely. Correct. You can say that. Yeah. So what are we supposed to do? What is the takeaway from this verse? What is he trying to convey here? Badrinath ji.
Pranam, Guruji.
Namaskar.
What is being conveyed is that one has to clean that reflecting surface, meaning sharpen your mind and intellect so that you reflect the Atman which is already there. That it is like a potential which is already there, but the potential can be realized only if you sharpen your mind and intellect.
Correct. So you realize the Atman through the reflections, because Atman expresses through the reflecting medium. Cleanse the reflecting medium, the reflection changes, the Atman gushes through, isn't it? And ultimate thing is and where would that lead? Keep cleaning, 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 keep perfecting, perfecting, perfecting. Where would it lead?
It would lead to a certain clarity of perception which is not restricted to the material world. Normally, our perception is of the material world. What we see around is the material world, including people. We see the gross bodies of people. But if you sharpen your mind and intellect and make it perceive the Atman, then your perception improves. And that is one way of bonding with other human beings. Because if you see the Atman in yourself, you will realize that it is there everywhere, and it has profound implications in terms of how you see the world, which is why probably a saint deals with people differently from normal people.
Yep. So the ultimate goal you achieve by keep purifying the reflecting medium is to attain godhood, because you will annihilate the very mind and intellect. Because a mind and intellect exists only when, Hariji, when does mind and intellect exist? Hari sir, when does mind and intellect exist? And when would it cease to exist?
Whenever there is a thought.
Whenever there is a thought, the mind and intellect exist. Now,
Yeah.
when does your mind and intellect cease to exist?
When in a thoughtless state.
In a thoughtless state. So the whole process of purification of a thought is to annihilate the thought, is to transcend the thought, is to go beyond the thought.
The state of thoughtlessness.
State of thoughtlessness. And how do you go attain that state of thoughtlessness? By purifying the thought. And what do you mean purifying the thought? From tamasic to rajasic, rajasic to sattvic. Keep it polishing, polishing, polishing. Keep it annihilating, keep destroying, keep negating, keep asserting. You come to a point where there is nothing left. Man minus thoughts equals God. You get to that godhood when you have negated the reflecting medium. So the choice you and I have got is, we have a mixture of thoughts. We have a mixture of rajasic, tamasic, and sattvic. You can choose to identify with a certain thought. You can choose to not identify with a certain thought. So you can negate it. So by the process of assertion, negation, you and I have got a chance to work on this medium, which is the thoughts. And the thought, the Sanskrit word for, the philosophical word for thought is, not the Sanskrit word, philosophical word. Arpit ji, the philosophical word for thought. I know the Sanskrit word is vicharam. What is the philosophical word?
Not sure, Guruji.
No problem. The philosophical word In fact, you can gather it in the very discussion we just had. I just said something. Man minus thoughts equals God. You got that, isn't it, G?
Hmm?
So how would you describe a thought or a desire here?
So it's an outward expression. It's
No, let me bring you back to the discussion. Man minus thoughts or desires equals God. So if thought or desire is eradicated, you attain Godhood. Then in that context of the equation, thought and desire is to be perceived as, which denies me of my Godhood, isn't it? Deprives me of my Godhood. It takes me nowhere near the truth, the Atman, the self in me. Therefore, philosophically, the thought or desire is said to be mala, dirt. Spiritual dirt is your vasanas, desires. Therefore, the entire study of the Shastras is directed to purification of oneself, is to eradicate your own thoughts and vasanas and desires. And you can't get rid of them overnight. So how do you get rid of them? You go through the process of purification. Keep purifying the reflecting medium, keep purifying your thoughts. You'll come to a state where the thought becomes so pure, it can't remain. And as the thought becomes purer, the self-expression becomes grander. Isn't it, Gayatri Ma? So a person's brilliance is nothing but
purification of his thoughts. So if there is thoughts are very pure, then the Atman reveals itself.
Atman becomes pure in your actions. Your actions become attractive. Your emotions become pure. Your thoughts become clear. So everything that the individual becomes attractive because
purification of his thoughts.
The purification of the barrier between me and God is being cleansed. So the Atman shines in a saint, but Atman is hidden in a sinner. Why? Of the film, the dirt is thicker here, the veil is thicker, the veil is thin here. So the Atman gushes through, the Atman seems to be blocked. So therefore, you identify more with the vestures and you identify more with the Atman in a saint. There's nothing blocking, there's no barrier. It just seemingly passing through, isn't it? So beautiful. You keep expanding, you keep thinking this way from various aspects. It is just so, it gives you a beautiful dimension. I don't know whether you're able to relish and enjoy the very process, how they have conceived all this. And it's technically sound. I was telling yesterday, in fact, someone that ATMABODHA is a text which is very technical subject. It's a text which requires a lot of grounding on the fundamentals. And once you have that, you're able to see how beautifully the whole Vedantic study is so well scientifically captured. Yes, Badrinath ji.
There's a beautiful story to illustrate this in the life of Swami Vivekananda.
All right.
He apparently went to many people with one question: have you seen God? And he never got a satisfactory answer from anybody. But when he went to Sri Ramakrishna, Ramakrishna was the only one who said, yes, I have seen God. And I've seen God as I see you, but a bit more clearly than I see you.
As vividly.
That kind of illustrates what you're saying, that if you keep purifying your mind as Ramakrishna must have done, okay, then the way he sees the Atman is more clear than the way he's seeing the man in front of him, who was Swami Vivekananda.
Correct.
So that illustrates this verse very well, I think.
Very well, very well. In other words, it's also trying to convey another concept, we understand that the world is a projection of your mind, isn't it? If the Atman is consumed in my mind, if I'm consumed by divinely thoughts, I only see a divinity everywhere. It's only divine world. I only see everything as a reflection, nothing but my own mind. So it's all in the mind. So what you see there is a reflection of what you see within.
Right.
You know, if I were to get access to your life, I would know exactly what's within your mind, because the way you live, the way you do things, everything is nothing but a pure reflection. A layman saying, tell me your friends, I tell you who you are. The choice of the company you keep is pure reflection of what your thoughts are, what's your inner personality. So it's not difficult to gauge others, to assess others, if you are a little objective. So everything is nothing but your mind playing. It's all trick of the mind. But very, very beautiful, right? Yes, Hariji, you want to say something?
Guruji, if we take the previous verse where it was told that when the Atman covers the layers, the 5 sheets, you know, and it takes the form of the sheets, the subtle body.
Where did I don't think he says that.
In the the nature, you were giving the die as an example, you know, that you put it and it takes the form of the die.
Mm-hmm.
So the Atman is covered by these sheets, 5 sheets, Panchakosha.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas when we come to this verse, it is somewhat saying in a different way that the sheets, the subtle body, the intellect is the reflecting medium, and the Atman reflects on this medium. Is there any contradiction between these two concepts?
See, if we understand.
Did I explain myself?
No. That's why I thought whether, I don't know whether you got the 16th verse correctly. He only says in the 16th verse that one should separate the koshas from the self. That's all he says there. Just like you separate the husk from the grain. And we also say, when we say a sheath, we also said that the sheath only covers it but doesn't contact that which is covering. For example, you use a sheath to cover the knife, a sword. We take the example, isn't it? Atman remains immaculate and pure, even though the sheaths are enveloping it. So it is not being, even though it's superimposed, you took the example, but it's not influencing. It doesn't get conditioned by what superimposes. It doesn't. So I don't think that comparison is right.
Valid.
Is valid. Okay. So I don't think you could get that. All right. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Most welcome, sir. Ramji is asking a question. Is it possible for someone to keep discharging his worldly duties but still maintain the purity of thought and sainthood? So the entire spiritual exercise is to how well you manage your inner personality. Because spirituality or saintly state or materiality and spirituality is defined by your inner state. Are you there, sir? Right. Okay. So it is your inner state of your mind and intellect that determines how spiritual or material one is. So how do you describe what is it to be non-spiritual? Non-spiritual or non-saintly, I'm using the words perhaps what you have used in the question, is when one gets attached or involved or get consumed by whatever he does. Whereas if one is able to maintain a sense of objectivity or detachment, in fact, the next, in the 18th verse is precisely going to say that if you are able to maintain an attitude of witness to everything that's happening, and it's very much possible, and you become detached or become a witness to life, when you have developed a certain perception or look at life from a certain perspective. And that's possible. You only cultivate that attitude while you perform your duties and responsibilities. So the Shastras very clearly pronounce that you can't attain that state of sainthood or godhood by abandoning your duties and obligations, because duties and obligations should be understood as you have certain vasanas and desires. How do you exhaust these vasanas and desires? By discharging your duties and burning them away. So at the end of the journey, the fuel is burnt out. So you have no residue left. Everything is burnt out. You're clear. So not only are the basic vasanas that you're born with are burnt, in fact, we have the ability, a human has the ability to completely get rid of all the vasanas and attain that state of godhood. So to answer your question, it's possible. That is precisely the methodology, is to operate in the field of activity, which is your dharma, is your nature. You are a scientist. You should do what your dharma compels you to do. It's your nature. Do it, but with an objective of not getting attached or involved with it. So when you do it with a unison of a thought of a higher, which in fact is known as the spirit of yajna, when you identify your thought to a higher altar, to a grander purpose, and get rid of the lower attachment. So there is no more bondage to that action. So that makes your mind pure. So your mind is not agitated. Your intellect has that maturity. So your mind remains undisturbed. This is precisely what the Shastras are saying. So if we understand Shastras, we will get on with life dynamically, but rather with the spirit of renunciation. So there is always an inner abstraction or inner resignation to whatever you're doing.
Yes, thank you, Guruji. Because many people mistake that the spiritual journey on just Himalayas and giving up everything, sitting in a cave or doing that kind of thing. So it is important to know that you can do your worldly things which you are supposed to do, and at the same time maintain the spiritual purity and undertake the spiritual journey. So that's why I thought you would reinforce that particular thing. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Your understanding is very true. In fact, I remember I advising a lady who came to me, who was a very extroverted lady. She was very extroverted, very successful in her field. In fact, she was one of the top women in that country, and she wanted to abandon everything. She wanted to wind up everything, pack her bags. In fact, she literally wanted to go somewhere off into the woods, into the Himalayas, and get into an ashram somewhere and practice spirituality. I told her, you will make a mess of your life. This is not what the Shastras are saying. I don't know whether it made any sense to her. She never did that, what she wanted to do. She had a family, a lovely family, growing children, lovely, everything was going very well. And suddenly some bug got into her, that I was drop things to pick up that. In fact, the most difficult thing to do in life is to the Shastras say, please give up the idea of giving up. You cannot give up. The Shastras are not wanting us to give up because it's the most unnatural thing to give up anything. You cannot give it up. But what is the most natural thing to do? Give sannyasa to sannyasava. என்ன சார் இது? இன்னைக்கு ரொம்ப என்ன சிவாஜி புரியல, என்ன சொல்றீங்க நீங்க?
சன்னியாசம் கொடுத்துடலாம்.
யாரு கொடுத்துடலாம்? யாரு கொடுக்கணும்? நீங்க கொடுக்குறீங்களா, நான் கொடுக்கணுமா?
Only me.
See, one of the easiest things to do, one of the natural things to do is to pick up something higher. It's never to give up anything. So they're only inspiring us to pick up or appreciate a higher value. So when you pick up a higher value, the lower slowly loses its charm. It just loses its charm. It may be there with you, you may be still with it, but it doesn't consume you. It doesn't overwhelm you. That is renunciation. So imagine being in life where you're doing all your duties and responsibilities, but nothing blindfolds your vision of the higher. Nothing limits you, nothing consumes you. You just do what your duties are.
And the ladder is off. You have to give up the lower ladders.
Yeah.
Climb up
It drops away. As you climb the higher ladder, the lower drops away. Perfect. As simple as that. Very true. But the word renunciation, this concept has been gravely misunderstood. All right. Absolutely. Perfect.